Welcome back to On Texas Football for this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. I'm CJ Vogel, joined as always by Gerry Hamilton. This episode brought to you by our good friends Mark Saunders and Allstate. We're going to be diving into the portal today because that's the hot topic. Obviously, the portal opened up December 9th on Monday. So far, 6 Longhorns have entered their names, including Jonte Cook, pair of linebackers, a trio of defensive linemen. Gerry, we're going to dive into that, where the scholarship counts at right now. Maybe some of the early enrollees as well when they get to campus, who to keep a close eye on, who might be an impactful true freshman early on in their careers, as well as where Texas will be targeting positions of need out of the portal. And, of course, you can imagine that will be heavily emphasized on the defensive line. But real quick, Gerry, before we dive into all of this, a quick word about Mark Saunders and our friends over at Allstate.
Yeah, when it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have one place that protects all of it? I got some great news for you, Texas fans. Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders serves the Austin and Round Rock area and all of Texas, and he is the only insurance agent you'll need. Everything from your home, car, and boat to your motorcycle, RV, and ATV. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? With more than 35 years of experience, you will be in great hands with Texas alum Mark Saunders. Again, if you're looking for someone local to the Austin and Round Rock area and the entire state of Texas, give Mark Saunders and his team a call today at 512-218-8571.
Perfect. Thank you, Gerry, and thank you, Mark Saunders, again for sponsoring this week's edition of the Recruiting Breakdown. All right, I mentioned it at the very beginning. 6 Longhorns have entered their names into the NCAA transfer portal so far. Of course, Jonte Cook was one of them back in November. Since then, you've seen Jere Bledsoe, Aaron Bryant, Tia Savea on the defensive line, and then more so at the outside linebacker spot, Tassili Akana and Darian Gillette. Gerry, we sit at 6 right now. What do you make of this bunch that has already entered their name, and what's kind of that number that you're looking at for Texas to eventually end up at?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting names on there is Tia Savea, because we talked about that he was obviously redshirting this year, and what we were unsure about was, does that mean he was going to stay at Texas, or does that mean he was going to transfer somewhere else since he couldn't get on the field at Texas? We now know that he is going to transfer somewhere else. So, look, I think we all expect 4 or 5 more players to hit the portal potentially for Texas. Could be a couple more than that. And it's dependent on when you do that, right? The window closes December 28th, CJ. But I think we're looking at least 4 or 5 more, if not a couple more than that. I don't know where you're at, if we're about the same spot at the number without naming guys.
Right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Of course, I thought that number could get up as high as 14. It feels a bit steep right now, but we'll see. Of course, I do expect this number to at least double by the time that this portal run concludes.
And in the spring practice, CJ, I think you're on at the end of spring practice for sure.
So that's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Just real quick, in terms of production, Texas doesn't lose a start out of this bunch. 6 talented football players right there at the University of Texas. 60 combined games between the bunch, 15 combined tackles out of their careers, 2 touchdowns, obviously all to Jonte Cook there, but no career starts, which I think is interesting. And again, with this number 1 portal or incoming high school class set to arrive on campus in January, that just tells you that this competition to get on the field is going to be increased higher and higher as we move forward. Gerry, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what that depth looks like moving forward, maybe for the college football playoff. Will Texas be able to have enough bodies, essentially, with this group that's already departed?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you had a rash of injuries somewhere, it could become an issue for you, right? But I think right now, I think Texas is in a really good spot because the reality is those guys probably wouldn't have jumped in if they had a role on this team. So take a rash of injuries, and a guy like Tassili Akana, one of the things I want to say there is we've seen guys transfer from Texas, and they're really good players at an Arizona State on a college football playoff team, right? And so that's the one thing I want to tell the fans is these guys, you said it, CJ, they're all really good players. It's just hard to get on the field at Texas, but that doesn't mean you can't go somewhere else and be a good player and be on a really good team. But I think as far as Texas headed into the playoffs, I think they're fine unless they just had some freakish rash of injuries. But I don't, you just don't expect that to happen late in the year like it has early in the season for some teams. So I think Texas is fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. Of course, potential to have up to 4 more games if you're the Texas Longhorns. So definitely of the utmost importance, but also having enough scholarship players going to be very important. And this more so goes to the 2025 roster. But Jerry, we were talking about it. Texas sitting with these 6 guys out of the portal or into the portal now. You start looking ahead of what does the NFL class look like this year for the draft? Who are the seniors that are walking? How many scholarship spots are going to be available? That number's looking like you'll have quite a bit. Of course, 25 signees in the high school class coming in for the class of 2025. Where are you sitting right now? And your numbers crunching the data right now?
Well, I think we're 55 scholarship players right now, counting this, taking the seniors off the scholarship tab, right? You have 25 incoming guys, 21 those midterm, but 25 incoming guys. So right now, Texas is sitting at 80. I mean, we talked about it. I really think, CJ, you're going to have 35 to 38 new players every single season. I think there's going to be that much roster churn because Texas is recruiting a number of 3-year and often the NFL guys. Texas is developing players for the NFL, so it could be a redshirt junior type of kid that goes into the NFL potentially down the line at Texas. So, if you look at it right now, 55 scholarship players, not counting the seniors. That number is going to go down quite a bit when the underclassmen, the Quinn Ewers, Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams of the world, Matthew Golden, Isaiah Bond. I mean, it doesn't take long to knock down this number pretty good. DJ Campbell, Michael Taft, guys they're going to have decisions to make. That number is going to get knocked down pretty quickly here after the season's over. So Texas is looking at another 35 to 37, maybe up to 38 players overturned in this roster, in my opinion, CJ. I don't know if you have a number in mind, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I believe the number last year for brand new faces making their debut as Texas Longhorns was about 37.
Yeah.
And then Texas went out and added a pair more in the summer, of course, with Silas Bolden making it to campus for the first time. So you could see it get upwards of 40. I believe that's about 45% of your actual roster, which is a pretty substantial turnaround, but that's just the era of college football that we're in currently, especially when you're seeing, about 10 to 12 to maybe 14, 15 guys enter their name into the portal each given season. It's a lot. But to the point, Jerry, there's going to be a lot of room for Texas to go out and add out of the transfer portal, which is where I kind of wanted to hit next. Of course, we've talked about it with Bobby Burton in terms of kind of hypothesizing where Texas will target. And, I think you're seeing it right now with a wide receiver in the portal, 3 wide defensive linemen have announced their intentions to enter the portal, and 2 linebackers as well. That screams to me 3 spots Texas will certainly take at least a look, with defensive line probably taking the highest priority in numbers when it comes to imports out of the portal.
Yeah, I mean, CJ, you broke it down earlier. Right now, after the last game of the season for Texas this year, Texas will return right now 122 snaps if everybody comes back. Alex January has 86 snaps, Sadir Mitchell 36. 122 snaps total. Melvin Hill's redshirted. We've heard he had a good redshirt year. Could be a good quality rotational player. So you're looking at 3 guys if all those guys stay at Texas. And then you're adding Josiah Sharma, Myron Charles, and Justice Terry, who's more of a 5. So you're looking at 6 guys max right now. Well, you're going to add 3 to that. There's no doubt about it. You're going to have 3 defensive linemen in the portal, assuming everybody stays that's on the roster right now. But I think Texas will have some patience there as well. And to see who 18 days left, there's going to be bowl games. There's teams that are going to play early to mid-December that could impact this. I think you'll see Texas have a little patience there, but they've got to come with 3, if not 4, CJ, depending on if anybody else leaves the program.
Yeah, I'm certainly up to 3 additions on the defensive line. I was probably at 2. I was at 2 earlier, but looking at the names that have now entered the portal with Savea joining Bledsoe and Bryant, yeah, that makes sense to go out there and at least get 3. And I kind of liken it. Let me get your take on this. I kind of liken it to last year at wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
You lose Jordan Whittington, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and then you lose some transfers. And now you're sitting there saying the only guy on the entire roster who's caught a pass in a game at Texas from Quinn Ewers is Jonte Cook. And there's only 8. So that kind of likens it to, again, the 122 total snaps this year of the group expected to remain. Texas has to go out there and get some production, get some experience, get a veteran presence in the defensive line department because, hey, you're in the SEC. You have no reasons now to be light on bodies and experience in the world of the portal when you're in the SEC.
I think they need two high-end players and a really good rotational player. Because I think Alex January is going to be a really good player, to your point, CJ. So what did Texas go out and do? They went out and got Isaiah Bond and Matthew Bolden, two guys who have started all season. Matthew Golden, who have started all season. Then Bolden to come in and have his role, Silas Bolden, on this team. So, yeah, I think it's going to be very similar with defensive linemen. They need two guys who are dudes, as we call it, right? And then one guy who's a really good rotational piece. And if you can get that in the portal on the defensive line, suddenly with the talent you brought in, as those guys develop over the spring and the season, you're looking pretty good by the end of the year. But you have to be really good early in the season too, because you go to Ohio State and you can't do it without inexperienced players and without one or two dudes that are ready to be dudes. And maybe Alex January is that guy next year, but I think you're going to see Texas go after two of those high-end guys and then one really good rotational player. But they got to be size too, CJ, to your point in the SEC. We're not talking 280, 285-pound guys here. You're talking 300-plus pound players. And once you get up in that 305 range and more what you're looking for, then you shrink the talent pool that you can look at in the portal. And there's going to be high demand for those players. So they're going to be real, true portal recruiting battles. And those kids have leverage, and they know it.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say, this is not the area you necessarily want to be recruiting at out of necessity. Of course, Texas did a fine job last year, adding 3 guys from the portal on the defensive line. Obviously, Savea, not much of a piece this year, but you got to have bodies there. And to your point, you got to have experience, you got to have depth, and you got to have size. And that just narrows everything down. But let's talk linebacker and a little bit of wide receiver as well. Texas expecting multiple departures again this year, having gone out and added 3 portal guys a year ago. NFL draft, maybe the portal's calling again for a couple guys. Who knows how it all shakes out? Texas already lost 1 to the portal at the wide receiver spot. Is that a spot where you feel comfortable with Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore, the freshman coming on, maybe an Austin Butler or an Aaron Butler and a Parker Livingstone to emerge? Texas, in my eyes, needs 1 at least.
Yeah.
Is that still where you're sitting at right now at wide receiver?
Yeah, I think at least 1. And, they need a speed guy, right? They need that guy that maybe is a speed guy, return man. I think that's going to be a key thing in the portal. But it could also be a scenario where this guy's just too good not to take if you can get him. That player could be out there as well. There's a lot of people are asking questions about certain players. The Nick Anderson at Oklahoma, the kid from Georgia Tech who's expected to go to Georgia, Mario Craver at Mississippi State, who proved in year 1 he can get behind secondary players in the SEC. He can run 10.6 in high school. So one of those speed players for sure, I think Texas is going to look at. But then there comes to be a question, CJ, if there's just somebody that just said, man, he's too good, we got to take him. I mean, that's the tough call for Texas because, you have Wingo at X, Khalil Lockett's going to be an X. Jamie French is a guy you can move all around, right? And then you're going to have DeAndre Moore, and you're going to have Dalen McCutcheon in that role. Where's Aaron Butler's role? Parker Livingstone also an X on the outside. So you have 3 X players right now. So it'd have to be somebody really, really high end that plays an X outside. It's probably going to be somebody with more speed, more versatility is what they're going to be looking for.
Now, of course, there will never be a shortage. Unlike defensive line, wide receiver will always have a lot of bodies, a lot of capable bodies with production. So we'll see. Right now, I kind of lean towards the guy, if there is one, for Texas at wide receiver has yet to announce. I kind of lean in that department with the way that we've kind of seen some big names, Nick Anderson, as you mentioned, and Eric Singleton, who's a 10-3, 10-4 guy. It doesn't feel like Texas is ready to throw out their fishing lures just yet for one of these guys. But linebacker, interesting one there. Look, you lose David Benda, you lose Mo Blackwell. You've already lost 2 pieces to the portal. I know that you have basically your nucleus, but you sure would like to have some depth there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you're going to have Elijah Barnes and Jonathan Cunningham coming in for spring. You still would probably like to add a guy there, a bigger body guy in the SEC that maybe can play inside, can have some versatility about him. But I do think Texas will look there. We can't guarantee they're going there, but we definitely think Texas is looking there because they're going to need to have more than what they have currently on the roster, even counting those incoming freshmen coming in. And obviously Anthony Hill, Leon Golafau, and you would say obviously Ty Anthony Smith in year 2. Those guys are going to eat up a lot of snaps at linebacker, a lot. And I think Elijah Barnes, which we'll get to later in the show, Elijah Barnes is going to be a freshman that has the size, speed. And he's played all over the place. He's played big-time comp. His dad was a linebacker in college. He's got a leg up. Jonathan Cunningham needs to gain weight. He's in that Ty Anthony Smith realm, but Ty Anthony Smith did it and got on the field. So Texas, I think their 3 guys coming back are going to play a lot of the snaps. Then you have the Elijah Barnes coming in, and you have Cunningham. So the question is, does Texas feel like they need one more? The numbers would tell you they feel like they do, but I just don't think they'll just take a guy. I think Texas is past that. I think it's going to be a guy that competes if they take him, not just a filler on a roster.
Yeah, someone that pushes the needle forward, pushes the competition. I'm with you. The other spot, punter and specialist, obviously, we've kind of been monitoring that position. We'll see, of course, how that develops, but it does appear that both you and I agree that Texas should be looking at a punter somewhere in this portal as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a great guy, it's a great player, the kid at Utah, right? I mean, if he raised his hand and wanted to go, to come to Texas, you can't turn the guy down. I mean, that's not likely at all. Now, again, though, there's heavy competition. I mean, that's an all conference level guy, right? There's competition for that. But I do think if the right guy raised his hand, I think Texas naturally has to say yes to that. I don't think there's any doubt. And look, unless they have a totally opinion long-term of Michael Kern than what we've seen on the field this year, which could be the case, but I expect them to take a hard look at punter. And the question is, will they take a look at kicker?
Yeah, that is going to be a big question. And it might actually just depend on how these final potentially 4 games go, because right now I think the taste in the mouth of all Texas fans and probably, I'm just assuming here, the coaching staff is, that's unacceptable. So we'll see how these next couple of games go for the Longhorns. Jerry, before we talk about which of these early enrollees to expect to become a big-time player for next year, a quick word and final word from Mark Sanders and Allstate.
Yeah, Mark Saunders, the sole sponsor of the Recruiting Breakdown. When it comes to protecting all your stuff, Mark Saunders is the only guy you need, man. One guy. He services the Round Rock and Austin area and the entire state of Texas. Give him a call today, 512-218-8571. So many of their On Texas Football family members have done this over the last year and a half or so. With Texas All-State agent Mark Saunders, 35 years of experience, you will be in great hands. That I can promise. Give him a call. Again, 512-218-8571. Anywhere across the state of Texas or in the Austin, Round Rock area if you're local.
Perfect. Thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Mark Saunders, for being the sole sponsor of the Recruiting Breakdown. But to wrap things up, we wanted to talk about, a little bit of the early enrollees, Jerry, because there's a lot of them coming to campus. Texas signed 25. They're up to upwards of 21 coming into campus for early enrollees. You mentioned who your guy will be when it comes to keeping a close eye on for instant impact in the spring. Talk a little bit more about him.
Yeah, I think we just talked about linebacker, right? I mean, we named 3 guys that are going to play a lot of snaps for Texas next year. Anthony Hill, and Leon Golafau, and Ty Anthony Smith. Then you have Colin Simmons, who lines up as a linebacker / edge at times, right? Same with Trey Moore. Trey Moore has a decision to make after this season as well. But I think Elijah Barnes is going to have a chance to come in and compete for time. He's 6'2", 235. In that range, he's rangy, he's physical, he plays the run inside the box, he has the range to play from the middle of the field to the boundary. He can even come off the edge a little bit. He's got good hands and ball skills. He's shown that. He played extreme high level of competition in that Duncanville, Lancaster, Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Mesquite Horn district. So it's speed of Texas. When he lines up at linebacker at Texas in the spring, the speed of the players isn't going to overwhelm him. He's seen DeCorian Moore run by him before. He's closed angles. He's closed angles on Power 4 football players at Dallas Skyline, playing linebacker at Skyline. So the speed, the change, that change in the speed as you move up a level, I don't think it's going to give him as much issue. It's all about learning scheme. I think he's going to have a chance to come in and kind of make a push to get on the field, and special teams as well.
Yeah, 100%. At that size, that speed, with that knowledge, Jerry, I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm going to go with the guy right up in front of him. And I'm not going with Justice Terry, but I'm going to go with big Josiah Sharma coming in. Look, the Texas, athletics department, Texas football program, they released a little bit of a roster kind of saying, here's who signed, here's the height and weight, here's where they're from. And, you look at Josiah Sharma and where he's listed already, right around 340 pounds. Talk about needing big beef on the interior. That's a guy who, on a thin room, will certainly get his looks, and that would be big, Jerry. We talked about it last year with Alex January maybe being one of those big instant impact guys. Look, he got 86 snaps, and maybe there was a little bit more to be had. Maybe that was a bit more than expected. But right now, out of pure necessity, Texas will need their incoming freshman class to stand up and make some plays in the spring. I'm looking at no one else other than Josiah Sharma, who I think was a tremendous get out of Folsom, California.
I think it's a great pick, CJ, him and Myron Charles, because I think both those guys are going to blow up. Because again, I don't mean gain weight, I mean just blow up under Torrey Beckton in a college strength and conditioning program. And Sharma being up at Folsom, that's a really good coaching staff. They do a really good job. It's almost like a small college, the way they prepare and coach kids. I think he's going to come in and have a chance, along with Myron Charles. I think those are really good picks. And let's just say this. If Justice Terry comes in, because he's more of this 270-pound guy right now, maybe more of a 5 tech right now. If he comes in and turns heads early, watch out, because that's going to be something to kind of keep an eye on, right? So those guys are all going to have a chance to play. I like the pick. If we threw one other guy out there, maybe it's a Cade Phillips. Maybe it's somebody in the secondary. Jonah Williams not taking part. And I saw Jonah Williams last night, as it turns out, not taking part in spring football practice. He'll be in meeting rooms like the plan has always been, then play baseball. So that might limit him. Could Azelis Hicks come in? Because, he not only is he reclassed, but he's graduating early. He's graduating in 2 weeks. And so could he accelerate that being in for spring practice, since Jonah Williams is not? That's a lot of snaps for a freshman coming in. So we'll see. I think I love your pick for Sharma. I think the linebackers, D-line, or those guys are going to have a chance this spring, because they're going to get a lot of reps in spring practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Texas will need it if they want to duplicate what they put on the field in 2024. They'll just have to do with a little bit of a brand new bunch, if you will. So, but that will do it for today's recruiting breakdown. Of course, I'm CJ Vogel, joined as always by Gerry Hamilton. This has been On Texas Football, and we'll keep you updated over at ontexasfootball.com, but y'all have a good one.